Hello, welcome back to our second lecture video on social network analysis. Of course, when you hear the word social network, the first thing that comes to your mind are Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, right? Well, that's not what social network analysis is about. Not at all. What is social network analysis? It's the study of human relationships using graph theory. Why might we do something like that? Well, it's premised on the belief that we are all shaped by the people we interact with. Yeah, we're not just standalone individuals uninfluenced by the people around us. No, we are who we are because of the people around us, because of the people we interact with. Now, what's interesting about it is that social network analysis was started not by a computing person, but by Dr. Jacob Moreno, a medical doctor and a psychosociologist. Dr. Moreno was the first person in the world to use circles and lines to represent relationships between people. Now, at the very core of social network analysis is the use of graphs. Every node or circle represents a person. Every line, every edge represents either a friendship, influence, and interaction, or regular communication, or so on. It all depends on what you're modeling. Take this social network graph, for example. We have Harry Potter, Ron Weasley, and Hermione Granger. So we have these three people, they're good friends, and that's why we have three edges connecting all three of them together. Now here's a slightly bigger social network. As you can see, Harry Potter, Ron, and Hermione, they are connected to Dumbledore. Dumbledore is connected to Snape, and Snape to Voldemort, and Malfoy, and Bellatrix. Well, I can't exactly draw the entire cast of Harry Potter in this, so let's just work with this graph for the moment. Here's the question. Who's important in this network? Let's approach this in a more methodical fashion. One of the key concepts in social network analysis is the concept of degree centrality. It assumes that important nodes have many important connections. In this slide, you can see Harry Potter has 3 connections, Hermione has 3 connections, Ron has 3 connections, Dumbledore, he has 4 connections. Snape has 3, Voldemort has 3, Bellatrix has 1, Malfoy has 2. So who's the most important? Dumbledore, because he has the most connections in this network. How does that make Dumbledore important? Well, the assumption is if you have more connections, then you have more influence over the network. Say, for example, one day Dumbledore wakes up and decides owls are ugly. And he goes around telling everybody that in his network, owls are ugly. What happens? Everyone in his network will now say owls are ugly. From Harry to Ron to Hermione to Snape, they'll all say owls are ugly because of Dumbledore's influence. Another concept is known as betweenness. Betweenness assumes that important nodes are those who are connected to other nodes via the shortest path. These are key people that connect others to one another. So who has the highest betweenness? In this network, Snape has the highest betweenness. In order for information to go from Harry to Voldemort, it has to go through Snape. If we need information to travel from Malfoy to Hermione, it has to go through Snape. Here's an example. Perhaps one day Harry Potter might say, I think Voldy got a nose job. That information can pass through the network to Dumbledore, to Snape, and then to Voldemort. Because Snape has high betweenness, that makes him very important in ensuring information flows between the network. If you get rid of Snape, there is no way for Voldemort to know what Harry Potter is saying. This is what makes Snape so important in this network. Now, what's good about social network analysis is that we can study the differences between formal and informal networks. Here's an example of an informal network featuring your good friend Darth Vader. Now, here we have Darth Vader as a big boss. Reporting to him are his 2 Grand Moffs, Grand Moff Tarkin, Grand Moff Kane. And for Grand Moff Kane, he has Admiral Thomas, Stormtrooper Harry, and Stormtrooper Richard. For Grand Moff Tarkin, he has Admiral Piet, Stormtrooper Bob, and Stormtrooper Ted. Unfortunately, working for Darth Vader in the Death Star is a bit of a choking hazard. Now, let's say months later into the construction of the Death Star, Darth Vader begins to realize a certain disturbance in the Force. He feels he's not at the center of the organization anymore. So what can Darth Vader do? Suppose we did a study and we charted the informal network on who goes to who for advice and help. Well, surprise, surprise, it turns out that Darth Vader is not in the center of the network. No, it is Stormtrooper Bob, the longest serving Stormtrooper who never missed a deadline. Everybody will go to Stormtrooper Bob for help because they're so new, they have no idea what on the Death Star is going on. Now, looking at this informal network, you realize that Stormtrooper Bob has the highest degree centrality and the highest betweenness. From this science fictional analysis, people don't behave according to the way formal networks are described on paper. Informal networks can give us more insights on the people who are important to an organization. Now, social network analysis is also very useful in fighting terrorism. Let me quote you a line from the Al-Qaeda Operation Manual. A cell preparing for attack should be small, comprising no more than 6 members. This image is an actual representation of an Al-Qaeda network. Notice how you have small clusters, cells, that are connected to an adjacent cluster only through one person. Now, those people are key individuals because they connect one cell to another. They have what we call a high betweenness score. So let's zoom in on 2 cells connected by that one person. Here we can identify this one guy connects the 2 cells, the 2 Al-Qaeda terror cells. He has a high betweenness score. So what do the counter-terrorists do? We just have to destroy this guy. And just like that, we remove him from the network and the 2 cells are now disconnected. But this solution isn't perfect. Why? Because after we eliminate that key personnel, members of both cells will attempt to reach out to one another. They will attempt to reconnect based on whatever little information they knew from the key personnel who was destroyed. A few attempts will be made and eventually one of them will be successful. And once one successful connection has been established, that person will become the new key personnel. And so everyone else will communicate through him. And in this way, the terrorist network is restored. Oh my Tian, what do we have here? Oh, no worries, it's just the Avengers. We have Iron Man, Black Widow, the Incredible Hulk, Captain America, and Thor. I know what you're thinking. Where's that 6th guy? You know, the one with that shoots the arrow, Black Eye. No, I mean Hawkeye. Black Eye is what you get if you didn't shoot the arrow properly and then it comes back to you, right? Now, the Avengers, they form what we call a clique. Now, cliques are very, very important in the study of social networks. Why? Because cliques play a role in reinforcing influence on members. Look at the cliques in your life. Your cliques inform and influence you in so many ways, more strongly than family and other friends perhaps. What's important is that cliques generate consensus. If cliques don't generate consensus, they typically fall apart. Now, cliques are important in social networks because when we identify cliques, we can identify those groups of individuals, those groups of people that exert a strong influence on each other. So look at this graph, for example. What's interesting is that we can use cliques to identify possible political allegiances. So if you are someone who belongs to Allegiance 1, you are highly likely to unite with the rest and agree with whatever political position they hold. Likewise, if you belong to Allegiance 2. Now, what's interesting about Allegiance 3 and 4 is that because the bulk of the clique overlaps in these 2 allegiances, it is very likely that both allegiances will unite. The people involved will come to the same agreement. Similarly, we can apply the identification of cliques for terrorist studies. If we can identify a terrorist and his or her clique, chances are all the other members in that clique are terrorists because again, cliques generate consensus. I do hope that you found this discussion on social network analysis really exciting and intriguing. I strongly encourage you to see how you can apply social network analysis in your course of study. Till then, I'll see you in the next lecture video.